Hello, BBC. This is a dispatch from Ian Wilson in France. Here is the story of the Battle of Bastogne and of its gallant and successful defense by the men of the 101st Airborne Division. This division jumped into action in Normandy and Holland, but when the Germans recently broke through in the Ardennes, the airborne men went into battle for the first time in trucks, and they were fighting within 30 hours of being alerted in the arrest areas. Now, with the threat to the very important road center of Bastogne beaten off, the defenders have time to tell what happened when the town was encircled by the Germans. And here is the man who said nuts to the impudent and arrogant German demand for their surrender. Brigadier General A.C. McAuliffe, Deputy Commander of the 101st Airborne Division and Commander of Bastogne.
It didn't occur to us, until it was all over, that the eyes of the world were on the 101st Airborne Division and the attached armor during the defense of Bastogne. The first thing we heard was that we had been rescued by the 4th Armored Division. Now I, and everyone else in the 101st, resent the implication that we were rescued or that we needed to be rescued. When General Taylor arrived on the 27th, the first thing he asked me was, what kind of shape are we in? I told him, well, we're in fine shape. We're ready to take the offensive. General Taylor said, I should have known it, but all that stuff I read in the newspapers was beginning to worry me just a little. The fact is, we were thinking about what a tough time the crowd was having. We weren't alarmed about our own position at all. After all, we deliberately jumped into just that kind of position in Normandy and Holland. The worst part of it for me was the loss of the hospital and the division surgeon and the surgical teams. On the first day, the Germans captured the division hospital and took prisoner every division surgeon. After that, we couldn't give the wounded the care they deserved. But the wounded were magnificent. Not a word of complaint from them. We commandeered some cognac and gave them about 3 ounces every night. That helped. I went up to one lad lying there with a compound fracture of the femur. I said to him, how you doing? He looked up at me and said, I'm doing fine, General. You know, we've got a new name for ourselves. We call ourselves the battered, let's call it blighters. We call ourselves the battered blighters of the Bastion of Bastogne. For the first 3 days of the Battle of Bastogne, there was fog. On the 4th day, it cleared. After that, terrific was the only word to describe the air support we got from those thunderbolts. Those are the guttiest fellows I ever saw. The air support officer we had was a captain named Parker. He really knew his stuff and ran a great circus. He called himself Maestro. He has a fine gift for salty language, and when he was telling those airplanes what to do, there was always a big crowd of soldiers standing around just listening to him talk. Finally got so bad we had to rope him off. But Maestro Parker and those thunderbolts really did a job for us. For the first 3 days, we gave the Germans a licking of their lives. On the 3rd day, the German commander had the effrontery to send us a surrender demand. When we got it, we thought it was the funniest thing we ever heard. I just laughed and said nuts. But the German major who brought it wanted a formal answer. So I decided, I'd just say nuts. So I had it written out. Quote, to the German commander, nuts. Signed, the American commander, unquote. The Troop Carry Command did a great job on the supply end, too. They brought us all the ammunition, rations, and other equipment that we needed. Our morale was always tops. Good morale is just as contagious as panic can be. We had several thousand reinforcements and attached troops, and they caught the infectious courage of the old men of the 101st right away. Airborne divisions always have good morale. We were fortunate enough to have been associated with the 1st and 6th British Airborne Divisions, and we saw something of the 1st British Airborne Division up around Orem. They don't come any better. No one should be surprised at what the 101st Airborne Division did at Bastogne. That is what should be expected any time of airborne troops. With that kind of troops I had, a commander can do anything.